views expressed on this program are those of the hosts, guests, and callers, and are not necessarily those of this station, its management, or other advertisers. You're listening to Transformation Talk Radio.
Get fired up for Spirit Fire Radio with your hosts, Dorothy, Riddle, and Steve Kramer. Get ready to shine the light on universal spiritual principles and uncover ways that ageless wisdom can guide you in cultivating consciousness in these modern times. Bring purpose to your life through practical spirituality and add to your awareness with Spirit Fire Radio. Now, here are your hosts, Dorothy, Riddle, and Steve Kramer.
Hello, welcome to Spirit Fire Radio. My name is Steve Kramer, and we are going to do something a little bit different this week. We are exactly 6 months through our second season of Spirit Fire Radio. And my co-host, Dr. Dorothy Riddle, she's not with us today. I'm flying solo, sort of flying solo, but I have an amazing guest with me today, and I'm so excited. So what my big idea was for this sort of celebration of 6 months through was to take a look back in a way at all of the topics we've covered thus far. And this incredible book landed on my desk. And I do mean incredible. You know, you host a radio show, so you sort of get these, you get promos, you get books all the time, and you sort of have a look where you have this guest on your show. And this book just stuck out. And I read the book from cover to cover. It was great. And it actually aligned so beautifully with my idea of looking at all 6 topics that we've covered this far that I thought it would be so great to have amazing author Mary Shores on this show. Mary is in the wings. Mary, hi.
Hi, it's so nice to be here. I'm so excited about today's show.
Oh, thank you so much for taking time to join us. So I want to tell, if you don't mind, just a minute to tell our listeners about you and your book. So Mary has written an amazing book, as I said. It is called Conscious Communications, and it is coming out this month on the 22nd through Hay House Publishing, which is just beautiful. I hope we get to talk about that later. Mary is the founder and CEO of a multi-million-dollar business. She is a speaker, lecturer, teacher. She's on TV, radio. She's got an amazing website, really, really wonderful podcasts. She is, what can I say, Mary? You are doing it all 24/7, full time. So welcome. It's really, really a pleasure to get to sort of pick your brain and share your experiences and talk a little bit about this thing called consciousness. I'm really excited.
Yeah, consciousness is like big for me. So yeah, let's dive in.
All right. Wonderful. Hey, listeners, before we go into it, I just want to say maryshores.com. That is her website. So, during a break, it's always fun to tap in your phone and say, hey, let me see what's going on with Mary Shores. So maryshores.com. And when the book is released, it's great to find it on Amazon. She's got her own page on Amazon. So Mary, consciousness. So we spent 6 months talking about some really big topics. We talked about humanity. We talked about hope. We talked about right action, right speech, goodwill, harmlessness. So all of these topics are really about how do we approach spirituality with a practical mindset. And that is what I loved about your book. It was equal parts personal and equal parts practical. It was sort of equal parts wisdom and equal parts workshop. So really just fantastic in all of those regards. But humanity, with the personal part, we talked a lot about on the first month of Spirit Fire Radio about, a quote that's pain is inevitable and struggling is an option. And you had that very quote or a version of it in your book. And so much of your book is triumphant almost because it's very much about your personal journey and choices you made to sort of bring this level of consciousness to up it into your life. I just wondered if you wanted to say just a few words about this idea of humanity, how we just sometimes got to struggle before we can get it right.
Yeah, so first of all, I feel like consciousness is really the next big frontier. Some people think it might be the Marianas Trench or, out in space, but I feel like the next big frontier that our humanity is like really on the precipice of diving into is the idea of consciousness itself. And I feel like maybe even the ancients were already tapped into it. And then some things happened along the last 3,000 years that have sort of kicked us out of alignment with our consciousness. And the thing about pain is, when I see that quote, pain is inevitable, struggling is an option, is to understand, like, when we have our lessons in life, they're painful to us because that's how it, number one, gets our attention. And like, as humans, we are meaning making machines. We make meaning out of everything, right?
Absolutely.
And so what better way to learn from is when we're experiencing a painful situation. And I know that I've had my share, that so much of the meaning that's in my life today is because of a hardship I had as a teenager, or losing a child, or going through a divorce, or, financial struggles and all of the things, because that's the lesson. It's like, how do you respond to these things? And how do you have those opportunities to always learn and grow?
So, Mary, I just want to say, hats off to you. See, this is why I loved your book. I start off right away by saying, life is really hard. Tell us about that. And you're like, wait a minute, let's talk about consciousness first. You have the optimism thing down. It's so refreshing. Like you said, all right, I'll get to that. But you know what? Consciousness is this thing that is rising. And it is not unrelated, I think, to this fact that we all sort of are really coming to understand that, well, all right, from the darkness comes light. It's darkest before dawn, all of this. And that, as you say, it seems that humanity has gone through this wave, that we dipped a little bit low and we're on our way back up. And I couldn't agree with you more. So, perhaps that's it. We're on our way back up. And it does seem that so many more people are just tapped in and tuned to look at me, I'm getting all tongue-tied. We're tapped in and we are turned on to consciousness. So one other thing that you mentioned, consciousness, because your book is called Conscious Communication, I want to actually talk about both of those words, because communication is a really interesting word, right? It's mixed with community. It comes from this root that means to share. So I love that it's conscious communication, because again, in talking about humanity, it was really about group, that we are a part of a collective, and that we are here to learn how to live together, to think, act, and be as one. And I found that was throughout the book. There's a part right at the beginning that you talk about this decision you made, that you were I don't know if at this point you were running the company, but you were working for a collection agency. You can correct me or change that if need be. But you had this idea that you wanted the person that you talked to be happier at the end of the call than they were at the first. And you said that was a game changer for you. And to me, that's what it's all about. Right there in that sentence is a little bit about, okay, you knew you wanted a bit more happiness at times in your life, and you wanted that for somebody else. And all of a sudden you want to share that. You want to feel the feeling of them feeling happy, and that is your goal. And that was the game changer. Well, that's really about compassion. That's really about communication. It's sharing. It's sharing the want for happiness, the sort of creating the means for somebody else to be happy. So, hats off there that you really have it going on with this title, with conscious communication, because it's really about conscious sharing, and for us all to be sharing in the goods, right?
Yeah, well, you've brought up so many memories. So I'd like to talk about this thing you brought up. My decision to say to myself that when the next person calls in, I want them to be happier at the end of the call, absolutely changed the entire rest of my life after that moment. And I'll tell you why. So I own a collection agency, and that's kind of ironic and funny in its own, that like, here I'm on your show, Spirit Fire Radio, but I'm a duck collector, because let's face it, the tax collector in the Bible was not a popular dude. So here I am, like, understanding that I wanted to like live my purpose. And I went through this existential crisis a few years ago where it was like, well, now I've decided that it's really strong in me. I need to take this spiritual path. Like I really want to climb that Maslow's hierarchy of needs and reach, actualization. And I thought, am I going to have to give up my career? And what I realized was I could bring my purpose, my beliefs, my value system to my career, and I could change everything. And so as a debt collector, my thought, like I just was very focused on knowing my outcome coming off of a Tony Robbins Unleash the Power Within event. It was all about like, know your outcome. And so I could have chose any outcome, but that's the one I chose. And here's where like the consciousness part fits in, is because like through my study of neuroscience, I now understand that when you ask your mind a question, we are these problem-solving machines. Our muscle is like an idea muscle in our brain. And just by posing that and putting it out there, the steps came to me of how to do it. And then I was able to create a transformative system that I call Words That Work, that I apply. Not only it became the business model for my collection agency, but I now train in hospitals, in IT field, in other collection agencies. It's like, this is how we need to be talking to people, how we can create connections and create conversations versus driving disconnection.
Oh, how beautiful. I actually have chills because not only, Mary, is it how we need to talk to people, it is how we need to exist on this planet. The very fact that you said, all right, I took this to hospitals, I took this to IT firms. It wasn't just enough that you learned it and helped your business grow. It's like, I want everyone to share in this. I love that. So
yes.
I just want to say, we're going to go to a break in a minute, but I also want to say one thing, and I want to come back to this story because I have lots to say about that story. It's wonderful. But one thing I love about your book, one of the things I love about your book is how much you give props to so many people in your field. They're mentioned all through the book. Again, it's this group effort. It's not like, oh, this is mine. I own this. These are the people that helped me get here. This is what I learned from them, and this is how I applied it, and this is how I made it my own. And the way you made it your own is truly original, and it is truly an extension of yourself, and it's also an evolution of all of this greater work. So how beautiful that you are sharing this to so many people in so many professions, and I'm loving this conversation. Mary, we're going to go to a break, and when we come back, I want to just talk a little bit more about that story and the idea of options and options. So listeners, again, we're talking to Mary Shores. You can find her at maryshores.com. And when we come back, more on her upcoming book, Conscious Communications. We'll be right back.
Awareness is universal. Establishing a living awareness through meditation brings peaceful, healthy, and creative well-being into your everyday life. The practice of living awareness, Spirit Fire's own meditation practice, is built on this belief and is designed for every level of practitioner. Each year, Spirit Fire hosts living awareness meditation retreats that allow you to explore the practice in depth at our retreat center in beautiful Western Massachusetts. Introduce yourself to meditation and the practice at the Foundation's retreat. Attend, in silence, a silent meditation retreat focused on mindfulness, presence, and nature, or be engaged with the meditation sittings themselves at the Deepening Retreat. Start adding to your awareness and attend a meditation retreat designed to cultivate consciousness in your everyday life. For details on attending a Living Awareness meditation retreat, visit upcoming events at www.spiritfire.com.
What if your body and mind were the compasses to the secrets, mysteries, and magic of life? Glenna Rice, co-host of The Questionable Parent, is inviting you to access all that is possible. Glenna is a 10-year certified veteran Access Consciousness facilitator who offers an amazing variety of life-changing classes and workshops. Work with Glenna from anywhere, with teleclasses and workshops all over the globe. To learn more and see Glenna's current schedule of events, classes, and workshops, visit glennarice.com.
Do you want to heal your body and mind? Your body has a lot to tell you if you just learn to listen to your intuition. Audrey Michelle, host of Rewired Life Radio, can help you peel away the layers that are holding you back from living your best life. Tune in to Rewired Life Radio. Learn to love, heal, celebrate on Transformation Talk Radio every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. Connect with Audrey at audreymichelle.com.
Calling all moms, it's time to awaken your vibrant, intuitive, loving self in every area of your life. Join host Debbie Pokornik as she shares thoughts, stories, and tools to help you stand in your power. Listen to Vibrant, Powerful Moms helping everyday women create extraordinary lives. Mondays at 2:30 Pacific, 5:30 Eastern. For more information about Debbie, visit empoweringenergy.com. That's empowering with letters NRG.com. Discover the healing medicine from the giant monkey tree frog Cambo. Cambo practitioner Ginny Rutherford and professional psychic Todd Rolson have come together for lively discussions of alternative healing medicines from the Amazon. Ginny and Todd bring you Cambo Talk Radio. Tune in each Monday at 1 p.m. Pacific to hear from guests all over the world with real life stories and the medicinal benefits of Cambo. For more information, visit cambokiss.com.
Hey, welcome back, listeners, to Spirit Fire Radio. We are having just a really exciting conversation with author Mary Shores. She has got a book coming out through Hay House Publications called Conscious Communications. It's coming out on August 22nd. Take a look for that on Amazon.com or MaryShores.com. So, Mary, I want to continue our conversation. Before we went to the break, you were telling our listeners and myself about this choice that you made. You owned a collection agency. So I want to diverge a little bit there. You know, I run a meditative retreat center. I teach meditation. Do you know what I did before this?
What?
I ran a bar.
Really?
And people laugh so much. They say, what? Like, I can't imagine you and alcohol and what? And it's so different. You know, I'm leading silent retreats and it's also peaceful and zen and a beautiful meditation center on top of a mountain on 95 acres, nobody to be seen for miles, you know, and I was running a bar in New York City for 18 years. But you know what is interesting? My path was that I love meeting people where they need to be met, and I have the capacity to offer them relief on some level. And whether that was community through a local neighborhood bar, and for some people, whether that was even a drink or two. As I got older, it didn't really fit my MO. I'm not a big drinker, never was myself. But it was really about the individual and them being met where they needed to be met, about them being comfortable, about creating an environment where they could find some peace, which is what I do now. I spiraled that up a level, and sort of made the human family, and this sort of whole planet my sort of happy hour. But I find that if we just dig deep, we will find we will get our message across. And we can't always look at, I work for a collection agency. Like, what's that? How did it happen within this space? Magic can happen right within any space. And I love in the book you say that basically you wanted to help alleviate the burden of debt. And I find that throughout your book, you're lifting burdens left and right. You've got practical solutions and you've got wise words that lift burdens of, what are they? Are they burdens of self-criticism? Are they burdens of, impractical ways of living, or of just a heavy heart, or you name it? But it's that you aced the ability to lift a burden, and whether that burden is debt or whether that burden is an energetic, it seems to be that's your gig. So, hats off and job well done. But I want to say specifically, so within the book, there's a wonderful, you sort of expand a little bit on that story, and you say, I'm going to read a little bit from the book. You say, so with customer happiness as my new North Star, we carried on. And this is after Mary has sort of like told her staff, this is how we're going to do it from now on. We want our clients to be happy. And you say, it wasn't long before we evolved our employee training manual and we created the do not say list. And then you say, because I learned how to use conscious communications to alleviate the burden of debt, our company grew 33% that year, a third in 1 year. But Mary, what I love about that sentence is you say, because I learned. So it was a process for you, right? I mean, you had to learn this along the way. And here you're telling us because you learned it, you could pass that on to others and the company grew. So it all came around full circle. So it's really about this idea of probabilities. You know, you mentioned that a lot in the book, that we've got to set the goal and then ask the universe, all right, now how do I do that? And we've got to be willing and open to learn or try out different options that the universe throws our way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because so like, let's just say, for example, and I believe this to be true. I can't say what everybody believes, but I believe that we have so much human potential within each one of us. But potential is only defined in terms of positive potential, because when we hear the word potential, we just sort of automatically assume that that is a good thing. But like, I have potential of becoming a best-selling author. I also have a potential of never selling a book, or I have a potential of becoming, say, super fit and healthy, but I also have the potential of losing my health. I have the potential of success. I have the potential of failure. We are full of these potentials, but it's in the minuscule, thin slice moments of life that the choices we're making that are connecting us to all of these different potentials, which I believe actually already exist. And it's just what we do to step into those specific potentials. So when I'm talking about like probabilities, and it's like these small choices that you make will connect you to, so my choice in that story is what connected me to increasing the success that we had that year, and was the things that I learned. Consequently, by the way, the reason I was able to learn so much about consciousness is that my son, who's now 17, we got a diagnosis of autism for him when he was in the second grade. And that sort of threw me in this space to really understand him. And in understanding him, I learned a lot about the nervous system. And so the do not say list, which, how do you run a business without saying those words? And how do you run a collection agency without the ability to tell someone no? Well, what I learned was I always have to focus on what I can do for someone to ease their burden, instead of like, collections is so punitive and they want to use shame and intimidation and threats. And I just went the opposite of that. Like, I just wanted to make people feel good about paying their debt instead of feeling shamed for having one. And so those words trigger something in the nervous system. And when that nervous system is triggered, what's going to happen is it's going to create all these like stress chemicals to flood through the person's body. So we're talking about the adrenaline and the cortisol, right? The nasty, nasty chemicals. And then that's going to put them in their fight or flight mode, which is going to make it very difficult to have a conversation. So that's really what that was. That was what I learned that I needed to now like teach to other people. But the fact that we can use that as a mirror and turn that as our own personal guide, that we can all make pivots in our lives to be able to connect to those potentials that are the ones that we want, instead of constantly swimming in this chaos, in this sea of like things we don't want.
Beautiful. We talk about quantum science all the time on Spirit Fire Radio, that we are literally a part of this continuous energy field. And that's all there is to it. It's fact. We've proven it. So I'd love to hear you talk science and spirituality. It seems to be the thing of the day, and which is wonderful for the West, because, we always want proof, right? Mary, what I love, though, one thing I wanted to say is you say that you, at the beginning of that quote, it says, I enthusiastically responded. I just am pulling this word out, enthusiastically, because there's an aspect of making those choices that still has to do with being a bit excited and being ramped up. You were sort of talking about adrenaline pumping. But I think enthusiasm and optimism, they're charged as well. It's just which side do we choose, right? I'm curious if you could just say a couple words about the way our emotions work. How do our emotions work with these sort of options and ideas?
Sure. So I love the words that you're using, enthusiasm and an excitement. And so let's just pretend for a moment that different emotions, enthusiasm, is really a set of chemicals that create the emotion of enthusiasm, just the same way as a recipe creates a cake. So, like if I'm going to make chocolate cupcakes, then it might be the same ingredients as if I'm going to make, say, chocolate red velvet cake, but it's going to be all different, like amounts of them. And the recipe is going to be slightly different. So there's going to be a specific chemical recipe that creates the emotion of enthusiasm, that creates the emotion of excitement. But there's also another chemical recipe that creates the emotion of joy, of anger. And so it's the things that we do to create those chemicals in our body that's really going to contribute to what kind of emotion that we're experiencing. So I'm not exactly sure if that's the question that you were asking me, but that's what came to me. I tend to err on the side of a little bit of a science nerd, but what you were talking about with like science and spirituality. So I have this nickname for myself. It's called a Gypsy Scholar. And the reason for that is because, like, ever since I was a child, I always thought that science and spirituality were the same thing, just using two different languages. So I've got this side of me that's very, very mystical. And I love to have deep, deep conversations about consciousness or reincarnation or, whatever is out there in the universe. But there's this other part of me that's like super steeped in science that loves to explore, like, the neurobiology behind the emotion of enthusiasm and what exactly is that recipe.
Beautiful. Well, I can only imagine that in a collections agency and running a staff of people who are going to be talking to people every day, right away, people are probably so defensive the minute they answer the phone or the minute they're connected with somebody to talk about their debt. And so there's got to be science involved. I mean, you've got to really train people that this is what will work and this is what won't work. And when you mix spirituality with that, when you mix consciousness with that, you're just cooking with gas. You can't go wrong. So beautiful. Mary, we're going to go to a break. And when we come back, more about your amazing book, Conscious Communications. We'll be back after these words.
Tune in to Lucid Planet Radio with Dr. Kelly Neff. This hit show will illuminate your senses and empower you beyond your daily stressors and hardships. Renowned psychologist and author Dr. Kelly will captivate you with far-reaching topics and amazing guests as you wake to the greatest version of yourself. Learn to tap into your intuitions, think critically about our world, heal emotional and psychological wounds, and follow your passions to live your dreams. The Lucid Planet. Welcome home. Visit lucidplanetradio.com for more information.
Hi there, my name is Audrey Michelle, host of Rewired Life Radio and a spiritual growth coach. I talk about this all the time on my show, listening to your body and acting on intuition. What do these things even mean? Here's the thing. About 10 years ago, I figured out I was doing it all wrong. I mean, I wasn't unhappy, but was I really happy? And then life sent me a spiritual smackdown, like it does, because I wasn't listening to my best resource, my body and my intuition. I was living from a place of fear. I was stressed and I was in pain, and I seemed to be happily unhappy. Mostly I just didn't know what I didn't know. And what I didn't know was that my body and my intuition had all the tools I needed to live life as my best self. I'm sharing the tools I have learned over the last 10 years of my healing journey in my online class, Soul Awakening, beginning September 19th. Learn more. Go to audreymichelle.com/awaken. That's Audrey Michelle, spelled MICHEL.com/awaken.
Gain power powerful insight and practical tools to support you on your spiritual journey. Access your higher self and tune in every second and fourth Thursday at 12 p.m. Pacific to A Life Untethered with Andrew Martin, Walking the Path of Freedom. Andrew is a highly attuned, intuitive oracle, energy worker, spiritual teacher, and international radio host. For more about Andrew and his services, visit thelightedones.com.
Known for his keen sense of humor, contagious smile, and extensive esoteric wisdom, EJ translates deep spiritual wisdom into practical advice to empower you to live your happiest, most fulfilled experience. Mystic Living Radio, Deep Spiritual Wisdom, Practical Advice with EJ, Eliyahu Jihan. This hit show delivers profound experiences for all who want to live life to their deepest desires. Tune in monthly for Mystic Living Radio. Learn more by visiting vitaltransformation.org.
Thrive is what we experience when our mind, body, and soul operate as one. When we thrive, we excel on all levels. Thrive is the mindset that matters. It is essential to our being. Have you ever found yourself looking for the instruction manual on how to thrive? You'll find everything you need to help you feel strong, powerful, and peaceful in your own body. So don't waste any more time. Visit thrivebyjen.com today.
Hello, listeners. Welcome back to Spirit Fire Radio. I'm Steve Kramer. My co-host, Dr. Dorothy Riddle, is off this week, and I am joined by author Mary Shores. Mary, it's been such a delight to talk with you, so thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, I'm having such a great time. Thank you.
Great. So, listeners, if you just came in, Mary's book is called Conscious Communications, and it will be released through Hay House Publishing at the end of the month. Mary, before the break, we were talking about, again, the collection agency. I want to move on to some more of the juicy, meaty material in the book, but that's so juicy. You know, here you are running a collection agency. You've turned this into a multi-million-dollar corporation, and you've changed people's lives along the way. So, you know, a recipe for success on every level, and you're teaching people of all kinds of professions, all kinds of walks of life, how to use these tools, which is what we love on Spirit Fire Radio. It's all about making spirituality practical. How do we use these principles in our day-to-day life? And, you know, we were talking about really being an agent of change, whether we said it in those exact words or not. Change is inevitable. We're constantly growing and we're constantly evolving. And I can imagine that as you were talking to someone who is horribly in debt, or even maybe a little bit in debt, they're wanting change. They're wanting to come out of debt. And, you know, one of my favorite topics on Spirit Fire Radio was the Hope Show. We spent 4 weeks talking about hope and really getting to the nitty-gritty and the science of hope. Like, what is hope? And it came down to really choosing abundance over limitation, choosing expansion over contraction. It came down to trying to generate optimism, but what it really came down to was options, feeling like you have options. So I can imagine that if you are on the other end of a phone with someone who's really struggling with debt, they're feeling like their world's caving in and that they don't have a lot of options. So really what you were, and still are, especially through the book, is you're a hope generator. So how do you feel about that?
Well, I feel like it's so profound because when we are in a disempowering state for whatever situation it may be, that the best thing that we can do is reach for something empowering. And even if that is a more empowering thought, because one of the first steps is we have to believe down to the fiber of our beings. Like sometimes I'll say this phrase, inside, outside, backwards, and forwards. So it means I need to believe and understand on a cellular level that something different is possible because all possibilities exist. So it's like, learn to ask yourself the questions like, what can I do now to get myself out of it? And I love that you mentioned this like practical aspect, because in the book, one of the things that I'm most proud of is that every chapter has a coaching exercise in it. And these are the things that I have done in my life to overcome any dark spaces. But not only that, but to go from whatever level I am and get to the next level, because I am a fearlessly ambitious person, just in general. It's who I am. So I'm always looking to be better. And these are the exercises that I use in my personal life to get me from where I'm at to where I want to go.
And Mary, they're great. They're really good. They're really original, and they're thought-provoking, and they make you want to go out there and test them, like put them to use. So I just love them. I thought they were great. I came up with some acronyms for the word hope that I'm really proud of. I love acronyms. And because I was so inspired by our Hope Show, I came up with 2 acronyms for the word hope that I think you're going to like. One of them is, so listeners, an acronym is, or Mary, I'm sure you know what an acronym is. You're a writer. It's when you take the first letter of a word and you create a sentence using the first letter of each word in that, I can't even say it. You create a sentence. You create a word using the first letter. Now, Mary, you tell me what an acronym is.
It's like ego, edge God out, right?
Oh. You create a sentence using each letter of the word. So hope. Having options promotes expansion. So having options promotes expansion. When you see that there's options, right away, just the very instant that you see there's options, you feel expansive. You feel like, some relief. And you feel like, as you say, that something different can happen. And then with those options in front of you, what you'll learn, listeners, from Mary's book is that really it's up to you. You can choose any of those options, and they're all laid out before you, and each one comes with a whole unfolding. But the choice is up to you. So having options promotes expansion. The second one, harnessing optimism provides evidence. I love that one because really, we've got to be optimistic. When we make that choice, as you say, we could choose disempowering thoughts, disempowering actions. But really, we've got to harness some optimism. And once you do, the universe will support you because by nature, the universe is expansive. And if you are constantly limiting yourself, the universe is just waiting. It's just waiting for you to make a choice to open up, I would say.
Yeah, and to piggyback on that, I want to stress the importance of that we don't necessarily naturally know how to do that. One of the things that put me on this journey and writing this book was because I always felt like I would hear people say that, but I didn't necessarily know how. So it's like when you say, put that out there, I didn't know how to do that. Or if people said, get in alignment, I would laugh because I thought, I don't know what language you're speaking, but I don't understand that. So I really had to come up with the practical things to connect me to being able to do those things. And so, I love it. And I just want to tell people, especially when you're in a dark place and you know that the darkness is going to turn into the light or whatever, but it's when you're feeling dark, it doesn't feel that way. It feels like it's going to stay this way forever. So, just knowing that there are little things, like just taking one step in a new direction can literally change your entire world.
And it's a process, right? I mean, it is a process. And sometimes it's a long process. You have to appreciate and have gratitude for every step of the way. But it's like that first day of the diet sometimes where you just go, all right, here we go, the diet. And you push the cookies aside. And, you got to revel in that a little bit, but it is a process, and it's something, as you say, we can say all we want. Oh, it'll, it's dark now. It will get lighter. Well, it's still a process, and you do have to take it step by step.
Yeah, and the process I think looks a lot like being committed, and being committed with intensely committed, as well as being repetitive. So a lot of the things that I started doing, once I could turn it into a daily practice, even just something simple like the daily gratitude practice or my daily affirmation practice, that it took about 45 days. I always thought it was going to be 30 days, but it was actually at day 45, I would start to see my perceptions profoundly shift.
Wow. Cool. Good for you. So that makes me want to ask you to tell our listeners just a little bit about that, because really it comes down to beliefs are thoughts we think again and again and again. And what are words? They are our thoughts put into clothing. They are our thoughts made real. And once we're thinking something, if we're going as far as saying it, then we're really sort of cementing that as our reality. So I'd love it if you just, just a minute or two on what an affirmation practice looks like.
Yeah, so I want to start this off with a short story. So while I was writing the book and I don't know, I was wrestling with something, I woke up one day and I had this like powerful feeling that I had to learn the Hebrew alphabet. Now, I don't know about you, but that was like an odd thing to wake up and be thinking about. So sometimes I feel like my thoughts are thinking me and I don't know where they're coming from. So anyway, I go onto YouTube and I find this rabbi who had videotaped his Hebrew classes. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing here, but I'm just trusting my intuition. So first of all, the Hebrew alphabet is fascinating, like just from a scientific point of view, like the way it's structured is absolutely fascinating. So I encourage people just to like do a little research on that. But then he gets 29 minutes into this video and I realized the reason I was there. So he says, there's a word in the English language. That's the word we all know. That's when the magician pulls the rabbit out of the hat. And that word is abracadabra. And he said that was an ancient Aramaic word that meant, and he said it beautifully, which I can't do, but he said, abara, I will create. Kadabara means as I speak. What? I will create as I speak. And that was a huge moment for me to understand that the power of words has been known throughout humanity and forgotten. And that there is there's a book, it's a best-selling book called Write It Down, Make It Happen. And so for affirmations for me, like I make this joke sometimes where I'll say there are certain people who are the law of attraction language police. Do you know these people? These are the ones that like correct everything you say because you're saying it wrong. Well, I think that that's not true. And I think that it's really the intention behind what you say. So because it is a mirror to your subconscious mind. So I have a chapter about affirmations and it's a huge part of the work, but affirmations can feel awkward. So like, for example, if we're trying to affirm that we have the best job when we're standing in the unemployment line and it's not a congruent truth, then it can actually cause you more disharmony than harmony. And so I like to write these affirmations that are very much like, if I'm looking for a job, I would say, guide me to be in the right place at the right time, or show me my power, or allow the doors of opportunity to open for me. So I have these things called asking statements. And what I did with my affirmations and the practice was that I actually started writing a page of affirmations every single day. And the result, and I did this for 1 year straight. And the result was, number one, I have thousands and thousands of affirmations and they're very beautiful and they started getting better and better. But again, it was that 45-day mark that I just started to feel, it's hard to explain this, but I started to feel them in my body. So those things that I was declaring through these affirmations became true. And this was stuff like, spirit assist me with my personal evolution, or like I said, show me my power, allow me to rendezvous with like-minded people today. I mean, the list goes on and on, but that's my affirmation story.
Beautiful. They're so powerful. I have to say, I would say when I first put my foot on the spiritual path firmly, it was by reading You Can Heal Your Life in my 20s. And I learned, I learned literally that your brain is trained. Happiness is a brainwave. It is literally a brainwave. And here it goes. I'm a beloved child of the universe, and the universe lovingly supports me now and forevermore. That was what I said to myself every day. I am a beloved child of the universe, and the universe lovingly supports me now and forevermore. I can lay in bed and I can conjure up the vibrational sort of quality of that statement, and I just feel myself light up. It's beautiful. So, the affirmations, they work. So,
and the important thing is that I heard you say, well, first of all, that was a beautiful affirmation. but that you did it every day. That's the key.
Yes. And we're just literally retraining our brain. We are retraining our brain, but there's so much science out there, Mary. I mean, we could go on forever, right? I mean, this whole idea of visualizing and then letting the universe create the cooperative components to bring that into reality. And your job is to stay at a sort of enthusiastic, positive, optimistic vibration that will allow and not push away or resist that which you see in your future, that which you want, that which you know is actually rightfully yours, because you are a beloved child of the universe, and the universe lovingly supports you now and forevermore.
I'm still on the imagery. So we could talk about spirit and science all day, because I'm picturing you and me at a campfire with like some marshmallows and chocolate, like sitting up all night talking.
Don't even get me started about numbers, because numbers, they're so sacred. And they're a huge part of Spirit Fire's meditation practice. The number 7, 7 chakras, 7 sacraments. We've got 7 vibrations of light to colors of light to make the white. So, I mean, you could go on and on about 7, the 7 dwarves. So numbers are really amazing and mystical. And I love that you woke up one day and you sort of said, I'm going to learn the names of God, the 72 names of God. I never heard that about abracadabra. Really?
It blew me away, because at the time I was really struggling with something about the book. And it was like I woke up and something had fed to me the answer to what I was seeking. And it was that statement, I will create as I speak. And I understood, because then you were talking about like the science, but if you're familiar with Paramahansa Yogananda, he, in his documentary and in his book, they talk about that. And this would be before we understood brain waves and neural pathways in the mind. But he was talking about that there's grooves in the mind that are like the grooves on a record, and the needle is playing these grooves, which would be like our behaviors. So like the needle would play the grooves, and that turns into our behaviors. And so the thing that's happening with the affirmations, or with actually all of the concepts in my book, is that they're carving out new neural pathways in your mind. And that is the part that science is now catching up with, where we can watch this in real time. There's people studying the brain waves. I watched a fascinating talk from a neuroscientist a couple months ago, and I wrote a blog about it called Neuroscience is Sexy. But he was actually said this, that they've seen this in real time on, the EEGs or whatever, that when two people are in proximity to each other, their brains actually synchronize together. And I think, wow, like that's where it's at. That's consciousness.
What's beautiful, and we both know this, and it really is exciting and so optimistic, is that the science is actually done. It's out there. It's just a matter of the old paradigm slowly allowing it in, falling away. And it's just a matter of time, because the proof is actually out there. I mean, it's done. We've already proven it. You have a quote that talks about this. We don't have much time left, Mary, and I'm having so much fun. So I really want to get to a few points. But this quote you have a quote from Gandhi in the book that says, happiness is when what you think, what you say, and what you do are in harmony. And, you said that so eloquently just before about, listen, it starts with our thoughts, and then it goes to our words, and then it goes to our actions. And it is really first about training the mind, using affirmations, observing, right? You've got so many wonderful exercises. I think of the Zen 10, which is really great. I love that you're promoting meditation, because really first we have to be able to observe ourselves, right? We've got to be able to observe our minds, our actions. What are we saying? What are we doing? And what is that producing? Which is what you did. You basically said, wow, all right. Early on, you said, look at my life. Here's what I would like to change. I'm going to take a look at what I've got going on and how to make the best of it. I'm going to see what works. I'm going to look at the results, and then I'm going to create more with that. I'm going to refine it, and I'm going to build a company around it. Beautiful. And now I'm going to write a book about it. So can we just go on to talk about Hay House for 1 second?
I love Hay House.
We both seem to have a little bit of a sort of a hero worship, right? With Louise Hay. She changed my life. And so listen, that's a huge family tree. that tree has got some deep, deep roots, and you are about to be a Hay House author. You're about to, bear fruit on that tree. How does it feel, Mary?
Yeah. So becoming a Hay House author has been a dream come true. And I really do believe that I manifested that the very first time I saw the documentary, You Can Heal Your Life. And I have to tell you that Hay House, just the name, for example, I feel like it really opens doors of opportunities for me, and that has just been such a blessing. But in October, I'm going to be speaking at the Orlando Hay House Writers Workshop. And it's so cool. Like, I'm going to be on stage with Mike Dooley. Like, I love Mike Dooley.
I love Mike Dooley too. He's cool.
Yeah, and I'm going to be on stage with him, and I'm going to be on stage with Reed Tracy from Hay House. And last month I went to San Diego, and they let me do a Facebook Live, like on their page that has something like 700,000 followers. And so it was really eye-opening because it is such a family. And I asked them when they very first called me in 2015 and told me, it was actually in September or October of 2015 that the executive director called me and said, we want to publish your book. And I asked them why. And she said, well, your book is really aligned with the brand of Hay House and what Hay House is all about. And I thought that was probably one of the biggest compliments anyone could ever say to me. So thank you for asking about that.
Chills for you. I got chills for you. And they're so generous, right? They're such a generous group of individuals. And, to the listeners, I can't say more. I really love this book. I seriously read it from cover to cover. And, there is a similar generosity in your words. And I can see that you are, you're just taking the message to an even wider audience. So all I can say is congratulations, Mary. Job. Just so well done. Listeners, again, the book is called Conscious Communications. It'll be out August 22nd. And Mary, you've got your own page, right, on Amazon?
Yeah, so you can find the book for sale on Amazon. You can also find it through our website, maryshores.com. We are creating a companion course to go along with because the book has so many exercises in it. We're creating a companion course that we'll be giving away free when the book launches. So if you order it, shoot me an email at mary@maryshores.com, and we'll be sure to get you that companion course for free.
Nice. Wonderful. So, Mary, we just have a few minutes left. And before we go, I really would love it, listeners, if you go visit Mary's website. She's got a Facebook page, Twitter, Instagram, a YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/MaryShores. So all wonderful. And your newsletter, you must work very hard at this newsletter. And I am a very excited new receiver of that.
You'll love it. So the newsletter is something I'm really proud of. It's called Fearless Ambition. And in each weekly episode of the newsletter, you're going to get a worksheet to download that's going to go along with whatever the newsletter is about. So like, for example, the one I'm working on right now is 5 steps to get unstuck. And so there's just a nice little tight worksheet that goes along with it. And then plus, of course, you can utilize any of the archives. So like if you're in a down moment, I've got 5 steps to break through your breakdown. You can find that archive, download the worksheet, and just do the steps. You'll instantly begin to feel better because you're going, when we say raising our vibration, it's really about like enhancing those chemicals in our body that make us feel better. So thanks for mentioning that. I really appreciate it.
Well, listen, we had 2 shows on goodwill and on harmlessness. And the bottom line on those shows was really about, listen, you've got to do the work. Goodwill and harmlessness involves specific action. You can't just sit on the sidelines. You got to be involved. And it's the same way as, okay, I got to print out this worksheet and I got to do it. That's how it goes. So Mary, such wonderful work. I am so happy you spent some time with us on the radio show. We just have just a minute and a half. I want to end the show this way because I found this such a poignant part of your book. There's a part where you basically talk about your hero, and your hero was like a really sort of aggressive, really passionate, sort of female leader. And all of a sudden, it didn't fit in the same way that your soul, your innermost needed. And you turned to Dorothy. And it was because it was time to sort of drop the fight for a moment and get to know the inner world, generate compassion, unconditional love. And there's this wonderful moment where, you mentioned the scarecrow, and you realize that it's a combination always. And I noticed what I loved about the book was it was this constant back and forth of very sensitive, beautiful wisdom matched with just go get 'em righteousness. It was a really beautiful mix. So, I just we have like 30 seconds. Just tell us a little bit about your inner warrior and your inner Dorothy in 10 seconds. How's that?
10 seconds. Well, I mean, you have to read the book to get the story, but it was really that I decided that I was kind of like a Scarlett O'Hara, but Scarlett always had all this chaos in her life. So you know what? I decided I wanted to be Dorothy, and now I'm Dorothy. I just decided, I just decided.
Well, Mary, your life seems very fiery right now. So I think there's still a little bit of that fire, going on. It might just not be burning down Georgia. So you know what? Congratulations. It's been wonderful to talk to you, Mary, and best of luck with Hay House. I'm sure we're going to be seeing so much of you, and your path ahead is seems to be golden bricks all the way. So, thanks so much for your time, and thanks so much for all your contributing to our conscious communication.
Thank you.
All right, listeners, we'll be back next week. It was great to be with you. See you next week.
Thank you for listening to Spirit Fire Radio. Tune in each Wednesday at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 noon Eastern for your weekly guide to purposeful living and practical spirituality. Join hosts Steve Kramer and Dorothy Riddle as they shine the light on universal spiritual principles and uncover ways that ageless wisdom can guide you in cultivating consciousness in your everyday life. Add to your awareness with Spirit Fire Radio. To learn more, visit spiritfireradio.com.